All right, so let's talk about lure fishing. Lure fishing is pretty easy. You just tie a lure to the end of a line and you're good to go. But I actually like to use a snap swivel. So it all starts with this, goes right to the main line. Use the fisherman's knot, and the swivel allows it to spin like this, so that when the bait's spinning around or twirling, generally speaking, it doesn't crimp your line, it doesn't twist your line. It also makes changing your lure a lot easier, so you don't have to tie it every time. It's got a snap that opens up, and then you take whatever it is you've got, slide it through the eye of that hook, and then close the snap part. So this is what I use on the end of all of my lines when I'm using lures. And we'll talk about this specific one. This is a plastic swim bait, a swim jig, and it's really good for bass. I've caught a couple trout on it, but mostly bass. In your neck of the woods, there's probably a lot of smallmouth bass in those rivers. Smallmouth are generally found in more colder waters. Largemouth are found in warmer waters, but there might be some largemouth around you too. Both of them like this. It is good for swimming in the middle of the water column, as well as maybe bumping it around the bottom too. They are fairly weedless. I don't get them caught on a whole lot, so usually around rocky areas it's pretty good. When you throw it into thick cover, then the weeds get caught on the hook, and fish generally don't bite after a bait that has a bunch of weeds hanging off of it. So yeah, better on the rocks than in the middle of the weeds, but definitely you could pull it alongside the weeds, angle it and throw it next to the weeds. I also like, my favorite lure actually is the Gold Castmaster. I've caught more fish on a Gold Castmaster than any of these other lures combined, and I've caught all kinds of fish with this. Lots of trout. I've caught largemouth bass, smallmouth bass, crappie, bluegill, you name it. Anything that likes to eat another fish, they love this thing. You just throw it in clear water, in open water. You can't throw it into any kind of cover. It'll get stuck really quickly, and I lose tons of these. So I actually just bought like 8 packs of them in various sizes because I lose so many of them. But I like the 3/8 of an ounce size. It's a really good size for all kinds of fish, and generally the larger ones, and you can cast it a long ways. It can be hard to find the 3/8 of an ounce size, but the 1/4 ounce size you can get at Walmart all the time, and this one's really good too. So that's my favorite lure. If we're talking about bass fishing, I also like to use these weedless jigs. So it's a big hook, it's got a lot of like plastic rubber fringe on it, and then it's got this wire part that protects the hook as you drag it through heavy cover. So this is really good when the water is cold and bass are a little deeper and not really active. You pretty much like put this in heavy weeds or bump it along the bottom in rock piles, and it'll get them to bite when it's kind of cold. Similar philosophies with these kind of crawdad things. You can buy these rubber crawdad things, put them on the end of a hook, and then throw it out there, and then just like slowly drag it through over the bottom, either through some weeds or on an open bottom, and it'll trigger some bites there too. The last thing that I like to keep in my box at all times are some smaller jigs for panfish. So bluegill, perch, crappie, all those littler fish, they really like these things. You throw it out, especially into heavy cover. Actually alongside heavy cover is the best. If you can find where the weed bank ends and just throw it next to it so that it runs right parallel with the weed bank, the fish are usually in the weeds and then they jump out and get it. So that one's a good one. I guess one last thing as far as baits go, there are a lot of these crankbaits. They're the plastic ones with usually a spoon at the front. Rapala is a common brand. I like these too, but I find a lot of times that they're pretty light and they don't cast very far. So unless you're in a boat and like on a lake, I don't use these very often. Maybe if you're on a dock in a river,